Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and here we are. Without really knowing what Boris Johnson is thinking, it seems that we are just waiting for the no deal announcement, despite what Nigel Farage says he thinks about Dominic Cummings' departure, laying the ground for a Brexit deal. It doesn't seem likely to be the case for reasons that I'm going to go through here. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, essentially, we're out of time. This week, the EU are holding a summit where if we had agreed a deal with the EU, the Council would be discussing it to decide whether or not they would give it their blessing. In reality, I mean, that was originally envisaged to be the summit for last month, but it can't be for the next summit because that is definitely too late to be in place for the end of the transition period. So if there is no deal in time for this summit this week, then it can't possibly be rushed through the ratification process in order to be in place for the end of the transition period. And it's really important when we're talking about the concept of deal or no deal. What we're not talking about is if there isn't a deal, that's it, we leave under no deal circumstances. It'll be time limited either way. We can't actually exist without preferential trading arrangements with our closest neighbours. But it does at least mean we end the transition period for some period of time without the deal. In theory, we could agree to a deal in December and it be ratified in time maybe for February, and then we've just got 1 month in the no deal chaos. But we're going to have that time anyway. But the Prime Minister has given no indication that he's ready to agree to a deal. On the contrary, ministers have been out and about taking part in interviews at the weekend where they were trying to talk down the problems caused by not getting a trade deal with, the largest market and the one with whom we have the bulk of our trade. And why would they be wasting so much time trying to, calm down no deal Brexit fears if they were of the mind of getting a Brexit deal? So that to me means the government are of the mind that, well, if the EU fold on everything, fine, but if they don't, we are not going to fold. So this weekend I've seen fairly desperate statements from people wishing to avert the no deal Brexit disaster, urging the government to come to agreement this week. But I'd be completely amazed if it happens. Don't get me wrong, all year I've sort of said that I really don't know whether Boris Johnson genuinely wants a deal or not. I still don't. I also don't know whether he genuinely believed that his stated strategy of playing chicken with the EU would yield the results or not. I don't know. All I have known is that the EU are not going to compromise the integrity of their market, and if Johnson seriously expected them to do so, we would certainly not be getting a deal. And then there's the issue of the internal market bill. Boris Johnson is still maintaining that he will reinstall the clauses which breach the withdrawal agreement that the House of Lords have removed. Now, if this is still the government's position this week, then the EU won't agree to a deal. Makes no difference, even if Boris Johnson just completely folds on everything. Let's say Boris Johnson this morning has told David Frost, the UK's chief negotiator, I want a deal this week, do whatever it takes, son. And David Frost goes along and agrees to everything outstanding, all the outstanding issues. Yeah, we can come to agreement here. Talks to Michel Barnier. Right, let's get this done. It will make no difference. None at all. Because Boris Johnson's stated position is still to breach the withdrawal agreement. And Nigel Farage has also crawled out from under his rock to state that the departure of Dominic Cummings means that Boris Johnson is getting ready to agree a deal with the EU, as if Cummings and that vote leave crew were the block to that deal. There is no evidence that that is the case. In fact, with the departure of Cummings, there has been all manner of kiss and tell stories in the media from those close to Johnson and the Brexit process. Now, a few of those accounts of interest. So one account was from an unnamed former cabinet minister in Johnson's government that stated that Johnson doesn't like making decisions. I mean, that checks out. We know that. They said that rather than make a decision, he'll just go off and read or eat or shag. That he needs someone to sit him down, tell him that a decision needs making right now, and that he's not leaving the room until it's made. It's the only way to instill a sense of urgency into him. Now, the source also said that Dominic Cummings, gained the trust of Boris Johnson because he was that person. He was the one who did that. He was the one who got decisions out of Boris Johnson. And if there's nobody to take over that role, and let us accept that maybe Johnson is genuinely of two minds, because it may be, I don't know whether he wants a deal or not. Maybe Boris Johnson doesn't know if he wants a deal or not. You know, there's been reports over the last few weeks about people close to Johnson saying that he is constantly in two minds. You know, does he go for a paper-thin deal or does he go for no deal? He doesn't know which is the best option. And if that indecision is true, and if it continues, and he doesn't have someone to sit him down and say, right, this afternoon is when we have to make the decision, Prime Minister, after which it's too late. You've got to do it now. Then it's what I've feared all along, the accidental no deal. Because the accidental no deal, now arguably you can say is politically the best outcome for his opponents. But, you know, bugger politics, people are going to suffer here. It's the worst outcome for the country. If you agree a deal at the last moment, well, you know, you lessen the harm of Brexit. Our lack of preparations are still going to hurt us in January. There's no getting away from that. We're not ready to carry out the checks that we need to check. But it would be worse without a deal. Similarly, if you expect a no deal all along, then there's a chance that they'll have worked it out, that they'll have planned for it. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have any confidence in their plans, given that their competence in dealing with even straightforward problems this year has been lacking. But they'd at least have a plan. However, let's say Boris Johnson is expecting a deal, you know, and he's surprised that the EU don't actually fold when at the last minute he thought they would. He's then bounced into a surprise no-deal Brexit, which is going to cause him panic. But in another contradiction to Farage's stated belief, so another source said that it was Johnson that was actually the more hardline of the Brexit High Command. And yet another said that the Cabinet will back Boris Johnson in the event of a no-deal Brexit. Now, if Cabinet will back him, then that means there's no real political pressure on him to get a deal. In reality, if the timings of Cummings' resignation mean anything, and I don't think it does, but if it does, it's potentially that he doesn't want his fingerprints on the mess that is to come. It's because whatever Dominic Cummings planned for Brexit is not going to happen. And it actually suggests that the plan was for a deal, at least from Dominic Cummings' point of view. And if that is not going to happen, he doesn't want to any part of the immediate aftermath. He's going to do, arguably, what Nigel Farage did in the aftermath of Brexit, piss off somewhere and then maybe come back a little bit later and go, told you you'd mess it up, didn't I? And then I try and think this week through. So the EU summit is this Thursday. So between now and then, here's what would need to happen for a deal to be in place by the end of the year. So 1, Boris Johnson has to actually agree on all the outstanding issues with the EU. 2, a draft agreement has to be written out in the form of a legal text. Then the wording has to be, there's bound to be little quibbles with the wording here and there. So they'll have to hammer those out to the point where both sides can agree on the wording of the text. And it's going to be a large legal document. And then that legal document has to be translated into quite a lot of languages so that it can be considered by members of the European Parliament. But for this week, specifically, heads of government, EU member states. And all of that has to happen before Thursday. And it all has to happen in order as well. None of it can begin until Boris Johnson agrees on the outstanding points. Not just another one of them, all of them. I don't see it. And I felt that Johnson would have needed to have made the decision by now. In fact, I said so last week. I thought by now he had to have got that deal. He had, in principle at least, in order for it to be realistic. I don't see, like some people are saying, get the deal this week. I don't see that he has this week. If he hasn't already agreed in principle, he hasn't got it, unless he's done it behind closed doors, which I don't see. So I think time's up. As I say, unless he's secretly agreed to fold on all the outstanding issues and has already instructed David Frost to get working, agreeing the deal today, so that the rest of it can happen this week. If that's happened, okay, but I don't see that. I'd be amazed. I'd be absolutely amazed if this happens. As I say, not that means there won't be a deal at all, because there has to be a deal at some point. No matter how much the Brexiteers try and deny the realities of Brexit, and there's plenty that still do, reality is going to hit them square in the face good and hard in January. Now, those who are a bit more aware have switched from trying to say that it'll be brilliant to saying it's all Remainers' fault. But, you know, it's going to happen. We're going to have chaos at the customs border points. Dover is going to be a nightmare. Kent is going to be chaos. We are going to struggle to get in supplies of food and medicines. We are also now of the belief that the government don't have a plan to bypass the Brexit chaos to take delivery of the hoped for COVID vaccines being produced in Belgium. How do we know this? Because the government have been asked what their plan is and they don't have one. They just keep saying it'll be fine, we've got it sorted. Oh yeah? So, I mean, it's not top secret, this isn't a state secret. Telling us what you've got in place isn't going to weaken the UK. If they had a plan, there'd be no harm in at all in explaining it. That those at the top of government cannot communicate what their plan is to physically get the vaccine into the country means that there isn't one. It's a hit and hope job. It's a Boris Johnson special. We need to believe. What's the Daily Express going to make of that, I wonder? The vaccine would be available, we'll have paid for it, and it will be stuck in a forest of lorries struggling to get through, along with all the other pharmaceuticals that we rely upon from the EU, including some medicines that people need simply to live. And then there's the price increases and the shortages of food. It was good of the government to finally U-turn and agree to help fund for those who've been dumped into severe poverty by their policies. But that funding will not stretch quite so far if food prices increase, will it now? And what if food price increases are the least of our worries? What if the shortages are severe enough to not simply mean that we don't have the same range of foods, we don't have the same choice, the sort of thing that's going to bother, well, people like me really, who will be able to pay more for our food and still get it. But what if it causes serious shortages, genuine shortages of staple foods, even if you're not that fussy? So there will have to be a deal at some point. If we don't get it in time for the end of this year, we'll have to go crawling back next year. The government will have lost another tranche of credibility, and it will be yet another government U-turn caused by stubbornly sticking to what is clearly the wrong policy yet again. And yet again, the resulting harm will be catastrophic. Then it'll be time for Boris Johnson to get hold of his box and walk out of Downing Street. Maybe with Rishi Sunak waving him out, who knows? But those are my thoughts anyway. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.